Good morning. Today is February 11, 2017, and wanted to take a few minutes to talk about something that affects so many of us, almost to the point we can almost say all of us, but I think there's might be a few people on the planet who haven't been affected by family dysfunction. And we're not going to extend it out to, beyond the nucleus family, beyond the mother, father, children, or, we'll leave it like that. Siblings, parents, children, spouses. When I was falling asleep last night, something came to me, which I found rather odd because, like so many of you, turn that music down. Like so many of you, I did witness and experience dysfunction in my family growing up. Just, the details vary, but, it's difficult. And the thing that came to me last night, though, is despite the things that I witnessed and experienced growing up and as a child, hold on to your hats, that I have to give honor to my parents. That I have to honor them as human beings. Because even though I'm not going to get too detailed because that's boring and why do it? But although they were really kind of backwards in a lot of what they were doing, you really have to consider all that they were bringing to the table. From the moment that they were born to the moments that I experienced them as human beings, all of what they saw, heard, experienced, underwent, suffered, in both cases, actually, in my instance, both parents suffered tremendously. It's no wonder that they were drawn together. But they both suffered, and they both suffered excruciatingly. And that's not to excuse the abuse that I saw and, went through myself, but is just to say that we have to appreciate that people can only give what they have. It's not to excuse when people do things that hurt others, but it's just to say, could it have been another way given what they were? Or not at their deepest level, because that didn't, it was about, the suffering perpetuating itself, basically. So, you know, you have to, not you, and I keep saying have to, and I'm not saying have to in a sense that you have no choice or I have no choice. But for me, I need to be able to, it's actually a big relief somehow to acknowledge where they were coming from, that the wounded child that still was very much alive in both of them had never had his or her pain acknowledged. Oftentimes, not only was it not acknowledged, but it was both ignored and just kind of, you know, just um, it made to feel like, listen, we all go through stuff, get over it, that kind of thing, you know? And just because time goes by and we get taller and our age continues to increase over time, so what? The child is still there, you know? And so I just want to take a few minutes to say those things. And that is not to say that we aren't left to pick up the pieces afterwards and that that's that's a struggle and it's very painful. Um, and all of this, we know that, we understand that, but they're separate issues and we don't want to mix them all in, you see, because there's the tendency to do that, you say, like, um, yeah, so what, they suffered, but what about me? Yes, what about you? That's a separate issue, and that needs, just like their needs were never met, your needs need to be met and understood. That now here you are, or here I am, like with this pile of shit, like, or not even that, just like devastation. Have you ever seen the aftermath of a hurricane? you know, just ruins. Or maybe after a huge fire and just all this ash and then the smell in the air. We had an event back in 2001 in this country, and the people who lived in that part of the country acknowledged that even weeks after that, you could still smell the fire, the burning in the air, you see? And that's what we're left with, and that absolutely needs to be addressed. But, we just really have to understand, again, we often say you can't get apples from an orange tree, you can't get oranges from an apple tree, and you can't have parents who are capable and functional on a high level who have undergone so much suffering and they're left with so much damage, such brokenness, their hearts are shattered. How are they going to bring all of this love and compassion into their new family? You see, and there were times where they tried, and I'm sure you've seen that too. I mean, nobody's just like angry and violent all the time, all day, every day. And if they are, well, I'm so sorry for you if you had to go through that. But I think for most of us, there are moments where it's like, yeah, there were times, we had the radio on and we were dancing and laughing and, this and that. And, there were glimpses, you see, of what could have developed and blossomed into something else. But we just really, really, At this point, at this stage in the game, guys, we're bringing compassion into it. Because all we do is go around and around and around in circles when we continue to play the blame game. You see? And other recordings, I think I may have sounded a bit harsh and cold. And I surely didn't mean to, because I know what it feels like. When your heart's been broken, and you know, and how you have to just kind of get through life, even with the brokenness. You just gotta get up every morning somehow and work through your days, and day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after. I understand that. So I apologize if I've ever seemed like, when I talk about taking responsibility for our lives, if it sounds like, harsh, because I surely don't feel that way in my heart. But I was going to say, at this stage in the game, we just have to bring the compassion in now. And, there's two things, and neither one of them should negate the other. We have the compassion for those people in our families who've haven't gotten it right. We have compassion for the brokenness that they brought to the table when they, got together and had us and, tried to raise us or whatever. And we also acknowledge that, be that as it may, you still fucked a bunch of shit up in my life, and now I gotta deal with this shit, you see. So we can acknowledge both without erasing out the other, you see. So I don't know. And certainly if you don't feel inside of yourself that you can get to that place, well, do what you need to do for your own healing and your well-being. The reason why I was kind of, I guess, moved to do this one is that when those words came to me, they deserve some honor. The effect that it had inside was one of relief, you see. And if you're not in that space where it's going to bring that, but all it's going to do is further, it's going to feel like more abuse against the child in you to just say, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Don't try to force it, because it won't work. But if you are at the place where you can say, yeah, if you, in your case, if you're saying, yeah, my parents were shitty, and you can also say, but that's part one, but I also see part two, I see the other thing that, for some of us, our parents wouldn't even, they wouldn't talk about their upbringing. Like, they might mention things, but it was like, somebody coming out of a war. Like, they wouldn't talk about things, or they didn't remember a lot of things. Probably their little minds protected them from having to consciously remember a lot of that shit, you see. So, anyway, just wanted to speak a few things. I don't want to draw this out too much. We hit the main points there on that. Please feel free to leave your comments, even if there are things that don't resonate. There is no right and wrong here. We're all just trying to move forward at this point. As always, guys, much love to you. Thank you so much.